انت في بيتك كليك جاء كريم، انت في بيتك كليك جاء هنجر ستيشن، انت في بيتك كليك يجي الدوام ان شاء الله. بليز شوفوا لنا حل. الان خلونا مع جلسه راح تديرها راح يكون المحاور سونيا من فنجر سوق. بليز ويلكم مدام سونيا بليز. ثانك يو on the stage.
All right. I'm going to give a little intro before our speakers come. Welcome, everyone. We live in exciting times, don't you think? All of us can now order a car, send a package, order food with just one click. And all this thanks to a remote control that's become so central to our lives. The smartphone. Companies such as Kareem and Fetcher, who I'm going to invite on stage shortly, all strive to make our lives easier. Some would argue lazier. They help aggregate online demand and essentially service this online demand offline instantly. With us today, I'd like to ask Idris Al-Rafai to come join me on the stage, CEO and founder of Fetcher, and Abdullah Ilyas, CEO and founder of Kareem. Thank you. Or you can go here if you want. Sonia sandwich. All right. So what we're going to look to address on this panel today is we're going to look at what these gentlemen faced in terms of challenges when setting up their businesses. We're also going to talk about the consumer education that comes along with the sharing on-demand services kind of economy. And we're also going to talk about their plans to scale, both geographically and from a product development standpoint. So Idris, I know that a lot of you have been here and have heard a lot about kind of on-demand services, sharing economy. Idris, do you want to give very briefly an overview to set the stage on where we're at? I mean, e-commerce is allegedly booming in the region. E-commerce obviously comes with logistics, which is what most of us complain about typically. Do you want to set the stage quickly?
Yeah, sure. So I think so. This topic has been quite extendedly tackled in the previous talk. So just to give you a quick idea, just one or two facts. Retail is about $425 billion in the GCC. E-commerce, that you have to be careful on how you define e-commerce, but e-commerce as in transactions happening online and triggering the delivering of a package, because technically if you buy plane tickets online, it's also e-commerce. But if you take the restrictive definition of e-commerce, we're talking about 1.5%, right? Back in the days when I was a consultant, seems like another life now, but we did a regression on about 110 countries and what triggers e-commerce, right? There is two things that are, we did a regression, so again, 110 countries, and we found that one, smartphone penetration, and then two, broadband penetration were the biggest definer of e-commerce. And out of these 110 countries, we are only at two outliers, which were in the study, was UAE and Qatar, right? Very high smartphone penetration, very, very high broadband penetration, but very low e-commerce as percentage of retail. So I think it's changing a lot. Now you can see a lot of buzz going into e-commerce, growing fast. I mean, and e-commerce, logistics is always been identified as a key problem for the growth of e-commerce. And that's why actually we started Fetcher. I was number 2 of Marca VIP back in the days, and I was not happy with what was out there. So we started Fetcher just to try to tackle the services. And you know, like it's crazy as a service, right? Like it's crazy that the whole like Kareem and the other companies still work on the cell phone, right? So they don't ask you where you live, right? And it's, if you think about it, the logistics industry is the only one who still asks you where you live. What is your address? What is your address? Who cares where you live, right? What matters is where you want to be, where you want to send and receive packages. You don't have to be stuck at home for 6 hours. And we want to send wherever you are. So that's the key around Fetcher.
All right, great. In terms of challenges, in terms of challenges that you've encountered, a lot of the roadblocks that we hear about in this region are around payment, regulation, customer service, logistics. Abdullah, do you want to maybe talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges that you encountered when you launched in Saudi, actually, specifically?
Good, great. So the beauty of these challenges are actually that an entrepreneur picks the hardest one to break and the hardest one to find a solution for, and then he really goes after that with full focus. And that's normally where the biggest opportunity is, right? So for us, the biggest opportunity or the biggest challenge was actually regulation. So when you start a service like Careem in Saudi Arabia, you are not regulated at all. It's a logistics company. It's a taxi company, which does not have taxis actually. So it's not only that we didn't own the cars, it's even we didn't work with taxis at all, and still did the work of a taxi service in a way better form. Right? So the biggest challenge for us was actually to be accepted by the regulator to do what we are doing. In the beginning, it was more a hate relationship, and then it moved over from being to a hate-love relationship, and today it is a love relationship, if you so like. So over the last 3 years, we moved from being banned and shut down in some of our offices to changing together with the government, actually, together with the regulator, the regulation for the whole industry. So today in Saudi, and I'm very proud actually to say that, today in Saudi, the regulator was fast enough to change the regulations towards licensing even car hailing in Saudi Arabia. It's one of the very rare countries in the world where you have clear regulations for every Saudi to do car hailing with his private car.
So you basically participated in policy creation alongside the government, which is great.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I heard that you're also, well, it's my first time in Saudi, by the way, and what I love is the fact that all the Careem drivers that I've taken have been Saudi. So are you basically going to be the largest employer of Saudi talent, essentially?
Yeah, so that's interesting. When you look at the biggest challenges we have in the region, in the Middle East, then it is normally youth employment, right? We have 30% of the youth is unemployed in our region. It's a ticking bomb.
Yeah.
And when a company like Careem comes today and employs so many, so it's not really employing, right? It's a new way to give people work. So when we create jobs for so many people in such a fast pace, we're growing every month by 30%, then you're just becoming a partner for the government to overcome this issue. And yes, to your question, yes, when looking at our pace of growth, today we already have 60% of all our captains are Saudis. And by 2017, we will become the biggest job creator for Saudis in Saudi Arabia. We will even surpass Saudi Aramco, who is the biggest job creator actually in the private sector in Saudi Arabia. So the amount of the captains who are working with us will surpass even this number.
For those who are tweeting, I suggest you tweet that stat because that's pretty impressive. Idris, on the regulation front, you're also present across multiple markets, some of which are less indulgent, let's say, towards your services. Can you maybe share a couple of war stories in terms of how you chose to deal with some of the red tape?
Yeah, so it's been a challenge. I don't think we faced that as much a challenge as what you guys did face. So kudos. I mean, I know it's been a difficult battle. For us, it's a bit different. I think we're facing a little bit of a market that is heavily regulated. So you get like two different kinds of markets. You got the markets that are pretty easy to enter, like UAE, Bahrain. We're present in 4 markets: UAE, Bahrain, Saudi, and Egypt. So some markets are pretty easy to get in. Some markets are heavily regulated, right, for multiple reasons. Saudi is one of them. There is only 7 courier licenses that have been issued, none of them in the past 25 years. So it's very difficult to actually break into that segment. So it was difficult. I mean, and it still is difficult to be able to grow in these markets. And I think it's more what we face as a problem. It's more at the scale up than at the startup level. And we face problem here, obviously, with regards to recruiting. And I think it's not, even if we hit the right level of Saudization, all that stuff, despite that, it's still very difficult to recruit and have the right manpower that we're growing at about 20% month by month, that can actually fit our needs. So that's one. But then you find like some other countries face like very weird issues. So for example, in Dubai, as crazy as it seems, the number of drivers you can have depends on how big your office is, which is nonsense in a way, right? Because it's completely uncorrelated, right? The number of drivers you have on the road and how big is your office. So we try to fight this and try to change the legislation, but it's been a tough battle.
Okay. And then another roadblock obviously is payment. This may have been addressed in the previous panel. We're living in a region where cash on delivery is king or queen. Do you think that that's linked to a banking problem, a generational gap, a cultural gap? And then how do you see this payment trend evolving in the coming years? Are we going to go from basically cash on delivery to POD, to payment on delivery?
Yeah.
This is kind of for both of you, but I'll start with you.
Okay. So I have a very personal view on that. We have in Saudi, credit card penetration is quite high. It's 45% of all people have credit cards. The usage of credit cards, however, is like 10% max. Even we see that on our platform, we have 95% of all our rides being done by cash. And we reacted to that actually when we came into Saudi. We reacted to that by offering, as a first player in the market, the ability to pay cash in the car, coming from a completely credit-based service. When we did that, our numbers skyrocketed. So the demand, like you said, the demand to pay in cash is there in Saudi, in the whole region actually. And when I think of the whole industry, of e-commerce players, I believe that it can change. It can change only if the e-commerce players all together say at one day we stop cash on delivery. Because the ability is actually there. It's coming now even better with Sadat, the new Sadat solutions. But it's still way easier for people to pay in cash, right? And if I offer people the ability to pay in cash, they will prefer this. There is a trust problem, educational problem, etc. Even a slight religious, traditional issue we are still fighting against is credit card. Is that halal, haram? So we're coming from that and moving towards a completely credit card-based economy is the way even the government is now walking into. No one wants cash. It's for businesses very, very hard to handle cash, and it's even for the government not the best option actually to go for. So in my mind, one day maybe the bigger player will all come together and say, "Khalas, we stop now. We stop now accepting anything besides e-payments, and then actually we can enforce that. Till then, because the market is so competitive, no one will easily say, I drop 90% of my transactions just to go to push for non-cash payments."
Yeah, I mean, very quickly. So for me, it's the cash on delivery. Obviously, so it's like 90% of transactions. We know that, especially here, but also all across. We have about similar numbers in Dubai, about 80%. So it's not very different here from Dubai, even though Dubai has a much higher credit card penetration. I think the problem of cash on delivery is mislabeled. I think the problem is not really cash on delivery. The problem is on the e-commerce side. The problem is the ability of the delivery company to actually find the customers, perform to the transactions, making sure that the return rate is low. Because if you got cash on delivery, the transactions happen at the door and doesn't happen online. So therefore, you as an e-commerce, you put all your eggs in the basket of the delivery company. You just say, please deliver, please deliver. Right? So that's one, the ability of the delivery of the company to actually find it. And then two is how fast you're going to get the cash back. So I believe that, so like for example, for us, like we do about 6% return in Saudi, which is about 30 points lower than our competition, which means that there is no, and we don't have a significant difference between cash on delivery and credit card delivery percentage, and we bring the cash back every week. So I think we managed to kind of solve it. Now with regards to trends, I mean, like you said, right, there's tons of initiatives now to go wireless and to go cashless, but it's not going to happen soon at all. Like especially as most of the transactions now happen on smartphone, And if people are uncomfortable sharing their credit card on desktop, they're even more uncomfortable sharing it on their phone. So this is what we see on the payment on the e-commerce side. So I think it's not going to change anytime soon. And then if you want to have like 500 e-commerce in the room to try to see how they can stop it, it's gonna be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion on that, for what it's worth, is that I think there's a big generational gap, because my mom has never used Kareem, has never used Fetcher, just because she's a bit paranoid and fears that there's going to be some hacking and she doesn't want to put her credit card online, basically. So good luck convincing her at some point. On the customer service front, this is the last roadblock. This region is notorious for bad customer service. When it comes to F&B, when it comes to kind of on-demand services, etc., I know that both of you have put a lot of thought behind how you make the experience better for the customer, on your side for the captains as well. I'm going to go to Idris first. Why do you think this is such a pain point in this region, and how are you basically addressing this, specifically in Saudi, actually?
I mean, again, we all know in our personal lives and business lives how difficult it is to send and receive stuff, right? It's a painful process. That's why I believe that a lot of the marketplaces that have actually, different pickup points and different delivery points have been very difficult to grow in this market. So customer service, we're used to poor customer service, and that's what is the problem. I think it's one of the biggest hindrance of e-commerce growth. I think customer service should be, the way I understand, or the way we understand at Fetcher customer service is I think 80% is technology, right? As a customer, when I want to send and receive stuff, 80% of what I want is full transparency, right? I want transparency. I want to know. I don't want to have 6-hour time slots. I want to know within the time slots when you're gonna come. So, for example, in Dubai, what we're testing in beta is that you choose your 2 hours delivery time slots, and then we tell you at the 5-minute level when we're gonna come. Right? So obviously there is a lot of routing optimization that needs to be done, and you need to have fairly confident that you're gonna hit that. So this is one of the things that's 80% of customer service. And then there's the 20%, is how to provide like a better, like when you actually meet the customers, how to provide that good experience, right? So here we're, for example, one of the things we did is that we have all our call center agents that are based in Saudi, right? All Saudi ladies, and it's working really well. It's one of the things that works really well. In Dubai, one of the things we did is that we have female drivers. Actually, we found out that for some of the deliveries, we have a much lower return rate when the driver is female. So
that's how you're catering to the kind of regional sensitivities. All right, cool. All right, now I want to talk about scale, which is kind of my favorite topic. If you look at the economics of the on-demand industry, it's a pretty low-margin business. So you need to scale fast in order to essentially break even. So obviously there are two types of way to scale. There's kind of scaling geographically, so going to multiple markets, which both these companies are doing. And then there's more of a horizontal kind of growth strategy in terms of product development expansion. So I'm going to start with you, Abdullah, and I'm going to put you guys a bit on the spot because I kind of want to see a bit of fighting. So right now, Kareem is moving people, right? But soon enough, if not already, you're going to end up, or you can, kind of move things because you're building the infrastructure to essentially enter the logistics business. Rumor has it that you may have had conversations recently with some e-commerce players in Saudi already. So my question is, one, can you elaborate on the strategy? But also, are you ultimately going to end up overlapping with Idris and Fetcher?
I like it spiced up.
Please fight.
Our belief is very clear that the transportation market is so big, the passenger transportation market is so big in the Middle East that we really have to focus on that. At the moment, we're talking about not even 1% of the market, which all car-hailing companies are covering. There are 100 million rides being done every single day in our market. Now, I'm talking here about the market starting from the very west, which is North Africa, all the way to Pakistan. In this market, we are talking about 100 million rides every day. And we believe, ever since we started, we believe really in focusing on stuff because you're so fast distracted when you're an entrepreneur. There's so much you can do. And there's so much opportunity, actually, you can go after. All the things which are broken in the Middle East are actually things you can fix. So will we go after all this at the time? No, I don't think so. For us, really going deep into the passenger transport and not being distracted is something which for us at the moment is the most important thing.
You're focusing still on moving people?
On moving
in
people.
Saudi, or is this
definitely
Korean
in Saudi
strategy?
and outside of Saudi. Will we not ever think of moving towards moving other things than people? Yes, for sure. I mean, we're building a platform which at the end can be used for a lot of other things, right? Will we do that one day with partners or alone? Will we do it in which geography will we do that?
Will you buy Fetcher?
That's really an open question, right? But we have still enough time to speculate on that until the day comes.
Very diplomatic answer. Thank you.
But for now, it's really passenger transport. Yeah, big,
All right.
by big.
All right, thanks. Idris, on your side, so we just spoke about kind of horizontal. On your side, you've basically chosen to grow through vertical integration with products like Seller, which is your social commerce platform. What's interesting, when I was doing a bit of research on this, is social selling represents up to 30% of sales in Saudi Arabia, and that's huge. So basically what you do for these individuals who sell via Instagram, etc., is you pick up the product, collect the cash, and ship the product, essentially. So 2 questions. 1, can you elaborate on the strategy as well? 2, could this be problematic from a regulation standpoint? Because I'm going to take an example. Let's say that I have amazing cooking skills, and I decide that I'm going to start making Ali in my kitchen and selling it commercially via my Instagram account. Like, it's happening right now. People are actually doing this, by the way. Would you enable this type of activity, or would you stay away? Because who's to say that A, my Ali is good enough, and B, that I'm like approved by the Ministry of Health, even? So what's your strategy on that front?
I mean, there is a lot of part in it, but this is the problem that we face, right? And it's what we started Seller, right? So a lot of the transactions, as you know, right, especially here, happens on like Facebook, Instagram, and that's how. And it works. And the way it's being done is that literally there is a lot of communication, WhatsApp, whatever. Hey, do you have this in this color? Do you accept cash on delivery? What's your address? All of this is offline, as in not at the transaction level, which we found is super cumbersome, right? Like as a very small SME, like a micro enterprise, you want to have a centralized way to, 1, control your inventory, even if you have 10 items. 2, you don't want to have to request somebody to come and pick up every time. You want something that is automated. And 3, you want to have a good service and good prices, right? So that's really what you want. So Seller is here to do all of this, right? So you go, it's not a platform to sell, it's a platform for the seller to manage the inventory and make sure that the whole logistics is going to be taken care of. So let's say you're O'Malley, right? Example. So it's like you have 10 of them, right? So you put 10, you log in into Seller, you put 10 as a quantity, and then you share the link, right? So if someone says, hey, can I have what? Do you actually send? You just share the link, and then it's a payment platform, okay? We integrate with payment gateway. You just share your location, and you choose your time slots, and it's done, okay? And the good thing is that the pickup request is done automatically, so we come in 30 minutes.
So you're not doing any monitoring in terms of, maybe Sonia, poisons her Ali and someone will get sick.
No. I mean, obviously, when you transport food, there is some regulations associated with it. But no, whether you do a good one or a bad one, it's not our.
So you're enabling it.
Yeah, we are. And I think there's a lot of initiatives, right? Like Takamol is trying to do it here. There is a lot of initiatives now try to put SMEs and micro enterprise into marketplaces and enable them through a smart delivery network. So that's, I think, it's a big enabler.
Yeah, I mean, I think social commerce is where we're heading. I have 2 last questions, then I'm going to open it up to the rest of you. All right, thinking about both your companies kind of down the line, Abdullah, what does Kareem look like 10 years from now when AI kicks in? So, for example, am I going to get a message saying, good morning, Sonia, there's bad traffic today, shall I have a Kareem ready at 12 to pick you up for your meeting at 1?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. So, for sure, there's a lot of self-driving cars will be around, and we are starting with that already with an initiative with Dubai. We partnered with a company from Silicon Valley to start self-driving cars as soon as possible here in Dubai. We are starting a pilot already next year, and the year after, most likely there will be the first self-driving car then being run by Kareem in Dubai. However, when it comes to AI, it's not mainly that, right? It's mainly at the moment we are producing products for the mass. So we look at the use cases. We have a curve of the use cases, and we produce for the big amount of people who actually answer. And we forget for the people. So the bell curve tells us actually which use case we are solving, which one we forget about. In future, this will not be the case anymore, but we will have a solution for every person, every individual. So if you are usually on your way to work, are picking up your coffee from Dr. Cave or from Java Coffee, then Java Time, then we know that, right? Why don't we get you the coffee and it's ready in your car before you actually open the door, right? So when we know that, and we know when you're actually heading to the office, by time we know that there might be a jam, and we might remind you that you have to head out a bit earlier, and we dispatch the car earlier to you. So all these things are actually music to the ears of the product team. And when you talk to them about what AI will make our product in future, they just stop working and start dreaming. Because it's really amazing what you can do with the platform in future.
Okay. And then Idris, on your side, what, do you foresee drones becoming part of your offering to increase scale and efficiency? And again, sorry, keep on mentioning regulation, but that's important. If so, how are you planning on addressing this and working with regulators?
So drone's going to be a tough story. It's going to be a tough introduction, right? So like you can see, like even in the US, so there is some tested, but we're talking about this for quite some time. So like, look, like on the drone side, there is like at least two or three parts of it, right? So it's like one, is it economically viable, right? And right now, based on the current technology, if you take an average like 1 to 2 kg packages, you can only deliver up to like 500, 700 meters. Things gonna change, but as of now, this is what the metrics are. So it still doesn't work. Two, how are you gonna handle with like buildings? How are you gonna handle with cash on delivery? I mean, all this stuff is just, and it's crazy actually that you have a drone delivering with cash on delivery. That it becomes just weird. But anyway, so that's two, and then three is the regulations, right? Like how it's going to be perceived. So, like personally, I don't think drone's going to do a big break-in on the delivery side. I'm more bullish on what we call like AGV, automated guided vehicles, which is more like on the ground stuff that move, and then you go and then you put a pin code, and then it opens up, and then you take your packages. Because it's more contained, it's not in the air. So it's more, I think it's much more scalable as a solution than what drones are. Nobody wants to have a drone that goes under, like above their garden and stuff. I think it's going to be, there's a lot of challenges that are completely...
Or you can use AI-enabled Kareems.
Yeah, but what's interesting on AI is, so like for example, one of the things that we do is that, for incomplete addresses, so like let's say like 70% is used through technology, and then we always have the 30% who don't want to use technology, like your mom. And it's like how do we cope with this, right? So we have like crazy addresses sometimes. Right? It's just like you just name the name of the building, like Sanama Tower. There's like 50 of them in Dubai, Sanama Tower. So how do you deal with this with incomplete addresses? You cannot go back to the e-commerce and just say, oh, can you talk to your customer and make sure that which Sanama Tower it means, right? What we do is that we use AI. It's like on average, 90% of the Sanama Towers that they mean is actually this one. Right, so then we dispatch that despite incomplete addresses, right? Technically, in any other logistics company would say, okay, incomplete addresses, please sort it out. Right, so we're trying to use that to, again, reduce the return rate.
Right, exciting times. All right, I'm going to open it up to questions because we only have 1 minute left. Anyone have any specific questions for either Abdullah or Idris? Yes, we have one over there.
Yeah, hello, assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. I have a question regarding the pickup when you talk about the Omali one. So how do you trust the provider when you pick up anything, food, let's say? It can go on not even for food or poisoning on that food. It can go on to illegal stuff or anything. So how do you protect yourself when you deliver a material from a provider to a customer?
The question is for me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is that how do I protect myself if I'm transporting food or that kind of stuff? Yeah. So like there is so on the general basis, there is like terms and conditions, right? When you use the app to use stuff. So technically, you should all read that, okay? The stuff that you pass on. So we're not liable. Same thing as, you know, when you send stuff from DHL, when you sign the stuff, it's just, DHL is not liable in case there is like things that are not legal that are being transported, not fully liable. So there's ways, right? On the terms and conditions, you manage to reduce the risk that you have, but then it's a problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem, especially here on the C2C, so which means peer-to-peer delivery. Ministry of Interior is incredibly, I would say, very cautious about implementing it, and that's why we put the C2C part on hold. It's exploding in Egypt. It's exploding really like in Dubai. Everybody's using it. Here, we can feel that the regulator is not 100% comfortable with this. So we're not pushing the product. So there is a lot. I think there is a lot that's going to happen, but this is how we do it right now. I'm not saying it's a solved problem, but
we have one question in front, and then I think we're being shut down.
السؤال موجه للأستاذ عبد الله بخصوص كريم. طبعا هناك تحديات في شركة كريم أو شركة فيتشر. كيف اللي هو المستهلك، يعني كيف ترضى المستهلك وفي نفس الوقت ترضى السائق أو الشخص اللي بيشتغل معكم، وفي نفس الوقت يعني الشركة تكون راضية من ناحية الأرباح وكذا، لأنه في تحديات موجودة قائمة في جميع الشركات مع الأزمة الاقتصادية هذه. وبما أنه ما شاء الله أنتم من أسرع الشركات نمواً، إيش هي رؤية الشركة من هذه الناحية؟
شكرا. So, can you
Lovely,
translate?
but I don't speak Arabic. You can answer in Arabic.
The question was, if I got it right, that how do you deal with having so many stakeholders in the equation to build a sustainable business, right? Because you need to please the customer, you need to please the captain, and you need still to make money. So if you want to please the captain, you just increase the prices so that he makes more on each ride, correct? But then the customer is not happy. And how do you deal with that? And still you're growing 30%, so maybe you have found the magic sauce. So if this was the question, the answer is maybe not very clear, right? Because we are moving so fast and we're learning every day. So when, for example, we see what's happening with the competition, because you need to put into the equation as well what the competitor is doing, right? You're not just in one market alone. So we even have to look into what the competitor is doing. When he goes down with the prices, we need to go down as well. So I think the magic answer, or the generic answer, or the strategy Karim is following ever since, is that we don't want to do a price play here. We don't just want to be the cheapest provider so that the customer likes it, so that the captain gets more rides, so that we have more captains on the platform, and then every ride becomes faster, and then we can offer even cheaper rides. So this is not how we want to play it, because at the end we want actually to build the better product. We want to build the product which convinces the customer to stick on the platform. And by us being in the market and very local and really close to what the customer says and close to what the captain says, who is to us a customer as well, we want to build the product which pleases the customer. Are we treating him well when he comes to our office? Is he getting fast responses? Is there a call center? Yes, there is. The competition does not have. So we understand actually that people in this region do need a different type of service than it's needed outside of the region. And we are trying to give the customers this exact product market fit. And by that, we want to outsmart competition more than outpay competition.
All right, I think we're officially being kicked out. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure having Abdullah and Idris. On to the next panel, I think.
Thank you.
شكرا. إذا السيد عبد الله الياس من كريم المدير العام يكتفي بقولي على مسرح عرب نت أن ننقل الركاب ونفكر في لدينا الوقت الكافي للتفكير في شيء آخر. يعني الدوام ما راح يجيبوا لنا.